¿Tenemos que rayar?
Yeah, would you mind just writing what chapter you're part of?
I'm going to President West Bend retiree.
Oh, wow. What's your name, sir? David.
Pay up your corporate tax. Pay up, pay up. Pay up your corporate tax. Pay up or go to jail. Pay up your corporate tax. All those teachers won't get laid off. Pay up your corporate tax. When Chevron's taxes pay off. Pay up your corporate tax. Pay up, pay up. Pay up your corporate tax. Pay up or go to jail. Pay up your corporate tax.
We're trying to show that it's not just McDonald's, that it's not just Walmart, low-wage workers, period. This minimum wage that we have right now is ridiculous. People aren't even making it on their own. It's hard enough for a family to survive on this minimum wage. But a mother raising 2 children for $8 and $9 an hour, that's unacceptable. So we've been coming together, we're going to keep coming together to see change, especially 15.
The fight for 15 is not just a matter of convenience. It is a fight between life and death. It is a fight between life and death. And that is the same thing that we are fighting for when we talk about the fight for a living planet. This is the exact same fight. When fossil fuels disrupt our climate and they cause killer heat waves and deadly floods and outrageous wildfires, who suffers the most? It's the people who don't have enough money to pay for air conditioning. It's the people who aren't getting paid enough to put gas in their car so they can flee the floods or flee the wildfires. It's the people who aren't making enough money and they're forced to live near coal plants, or near fracking sites, or near oil refineries. And they're living in places where it's dirty north of air. 1/3 of Americans live in places where it is unhealthy to breathe every single day. And the people who live in these places invariably are people who are getting paid starvation wages. That is why the Sierra Club is here with you today. That is why we are part of the fight for 15. Let me say one more thing. We are fighting the same business model. We are fighting the exact same business model. It is the same corporate business model of fast food retailers and big box retailers. Did I say Walmart here? Did I say McDonald's here? It is these planet. Living wage. Living planet. Will we stand together? Are we united together? Are we winning? Will we get to 15? Will we do it together? Thank you. All right.
Well, we just hang back here.
In memory of our good brother John Fromer, may he continue to rest in music, whom we lost from at least his physical form 2 years ago, on January 2nd, and led so many of our gatherings. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I got the light of justice, I'm gonna let it shine. I got the light of justice, I'm gonna let it shine. I got the light of justice, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, this little light of mine. Go! I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I got the light of peace, I'm gonna let it shine. I got the light of peace, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, I got the light of peace, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light, oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, yeah. All over the city, I'm gonna let it shine. All over the white city, I'm gonna let it shine. All over the city, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. It's the people who make the difference. Hacemos un hermoso jardín. We make a beautiful garden. And it's the friendships made in the struggle. Son razones para vivir. give us reason to live. It's the people who make the difference. Hacemos un hermoso jardín, and it's the friendships made in the struggle, son razones para vivir. So let's see if you can say, hacemos un hermoso jardín.
Hacemos un hermoso jardín.
So, and then the second verse in Spanish, son razones para vivir.
Son razones para vivir.
I knew I was dealing with a Spanish 3 or 4B conversational, not beginner. So it goes. It's the people who make the difference. Hacemos un hermoso jardín, and it's the friendships made in the struggle, son razones para vivir, son razones para vivir. As they sat down for dinner with a glass of wine, talking about the evening news, watching all the people marching in the street, they said the city's about to blow a fuse. I'm so tired of sitting around, something that I got to do. Not watching and talking, just hanging out, and the change is so long overdue. Whoa, 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 it's the people who make the difference. Hacemos un hermoso jardín, and it's the friendship made in the struggle, son razones para vivir.
Hello, thank you for coming to the People's Congress, Congress of the People. Thank you for coming. My name is David Frias. I'm one of the co-directors of the San Francisco Living Wage Coalition.
Carl Kramer, San Francisco Living Wage Coalition.
So, as you have everyone here at the program, the sessions we're going to have at 10 a.m.
So I'd like to, we're going to start out, I have some inspirational music, and we'll start out with some very inspirational stories. I'd like to introduce Patricia Kerman of the Housing Rights Committee, and she's going to be relating victory that through organizing with people who are facing eviction.
I was born in Detroit in 1949, and the minute I stepped in San Francisco in 1970, I was at home. I fell in love with the city, and what I fell in love with were the people. I mean, it's a beautiful city, but you can find beautiful parks, interesting buildings, fancy restaurants or whatever all over the world, but you can't find the kind of people I found here. A diverse group of people, and a fighting group of people. We could fill the streets up with people fighting to end the war in Vietnam, to give a woman the right to choose, voting rights, and I've been fighting these fights since back in Detroit. So I felt very comfortable. I love the city. I've been in my flat in the Mission District at 20th and Folsom for almost 30 years. And my landlord decided he was going to LSAC me because I wouldn't take a buyout. There's 4 units. 3 of them took buyouts. 1 of them was sort of harassed, you know, with the innuendo of take this, or INS might be called, without a direct. You know, they don't directly say this to people, although sometimes maybe they do, but they definitely put that pressure on immigrants because they're using fear. And fear's been used to control the masses all the time, as it is today. So I decided I was going to fight. And my roommates, one of them, Tom, rep also was fighting with me. My other roommate, he's sort of like, he's never here. He works out of the city and he's got a girlfriend in the East Bay. He said, whatever you do, I'm with you. So I didn't know how to start. I went to the tenants union, which is just a few blocks from me. And then I started getting involved with Addiction Free San Francisco, which I sort of connected with at the Dia de los Muertos procession, when we had a particular contingent of housing rights people at the end of the procession, and also fighting about what they're turning this sacred day, really, they're turning it into like a festival, you know, for let's get drunk and drink margaritas and be on the streets. So we wanted to make a statement about that. I started talking to people there. Other people were facing the same problem I was. I had no idea how strong this eviction crisis was, and how vast it was. The more I got involved, the more people I came across going through this. I've heard a lot of really sad stories. And I was kind of a nervous wreck. I got my notice, actually, about 6 months after my mother was killed. And so it wasn't very, it was very difficult. But one thing I know is that when you fight, it helps you overcome your depression and your sadness. And because there's power. And so we fought. I went to Tenderloin Housing Clinic. I love them. My wonderful hero attorney, Steve Collier, agreed to take my case. And since I'm a senior and disabled, that was really good because I live on about $900 a month. So, yeah, anyone who's lived here a long time in that rent control place, after you retire and you're on a fixed income, unless you had a good union job or, you know, that gives you a pension, you're living on very little. But you learn to live like that, and money has never been a big thing for me. And could be a problem now, but it's the way I was raised. So we fought, we went to court, and we got our Ellis Act quashed. Yay! Our landlord appealed. Boo. We fought the appeal, and about 3 weeks ago, the appellate court finally came back with the ruling, and they had thrown the case out. So, I won. And I didn't just win for me. I won for all the people fighting this disease, and also all the people who have already been thrown out of the city, and for all the people who love this city and hate what's happening to it. Yeah. And that's the thing that really stirred me. It wasn't just my fight, my personal fight that was keeping me going. It was what's happening to our city. The city that I love, the city that we all love. And the reason that we love the city is a lot different than the reason a lot of people want to move here. So we continue fighting. I've been in a lot of different protests, actions. Eviction Free San Francisco deals with more action, you know, street action rather than the legal. So if you need bodies, we've got your back. It's amazing what's going on here. I don't know if any of you were at City Hall last Tuesday, but it was incredible. I got there at 1 o'clock to make sure I could get in the chamber itself. I left at 9:30 at night. It was still going on. I guess it went to about 11:30. And of the hundreds of people who testified, there might have been 25 to 50 of the as Bush would call them, evildoers. So and you could tell they all looked alike.
Actually spend enough time thinking about the practicality of what we want. And it can, I find that it's super helpful to work backward. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Hector, and I'm on the mission over here. Right. Been living here since 1970.
And so I think it's worth like taking a few minutes and like I was just going to sort of walk people through sort of a visioning thing as sort of a place to start, and then maybe we could work out from there. And I just wanted to take a couple minutes to kind of ground ourselves, and because the first question is, what would good housing for all look like?
So
And
could you repeat that?
what would good housing for all look like? And so first I think it's really important to think of the city we live in. And think about if we were really working for good housing for elderly San Franciscans, for instance. What a vision of, when we think about good housing, what things we would need to change from our system now that would mean that elderly people were stable in their housing. Or elderly folks had the housing they needed, and we need to really think of our spectrum of elderly folks. As we sort of keep thinking about our visions in our heads of what this housing would look like, what do we need to change that growing families, so families who are having more kids? What would we need to change about the way it is now to make it work that those families had good housing? Do we need a housing? Other folks?
Okay. Warm in the winter and cool in the summer.
Yeah. Well heated and I'd add well maintained.
Adequately maintained.
Yeah, will you put well
Not
maintained?
perfect, but we can do better than adequate. Maybe.
No, adequate's okay.
Well, maybe we have a different definition of adequate.
I mean, we don't want the dangerous, unsafe for our children,
Of course not.
but we don't have to have every little.
Safe next to one.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, safe, which could mean the neighborhood.
What else?
Building in the neighborhood.
Planned,
What?
planned,
Plan?
Planned,
Yes.
planned.
housing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in other words,
I'm gonna put the word well and.
well
Yeah,
planned.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's pretty well planned. It's pretty planned right now, but not particularly well planned.
Planned for us.
Yeah.
Planned by the people who live there.
Yeah, will you put that one by residents?
Does
Next
that mean
next
design?
plan, will you put residents?
Does that mean design?
It seems to me that other
that would
things
be part of
besides
it. I mean,
planning.
That, you know, you utilize and expand transit in corridors.
Right, if
I mean, like,
for the working people.
where-
So this is, we're now getting more specific. This is actually good, that is near good, that has near good transit.
Very important.
If they're, particularly if they're working people. If they're seniors, it's not, you might want to kind of rethink the whole concept of like,
Well, getting to and from where you have to go.
Yeah, because
Wherever
actually
that is.
seniors is actually more about walkability, you know,
So
can
I-
you get to the,
yeah,
That
it's
one I
no
put
more walkability,
transportation friendly
wheelchair
and
accessible.
Yeah.
okay,
I usually.
Affordability
is kind of
affordable.
Gee, how do you think of that? We have great housing, but we can't pay for it.
Exactly.
I would say maybe near where people work, that people get to live by near they work, where they work.
Right, that's environmentally friendly.
Buildings, because most of those buildings are
Okay.
on habitable.
I lived at a TNDC SRO for 10 years. 9 of them I was waiting for Section 8. At that time, they were prioritizing families, giving housing to families, which I said, fine. So I didn't mind waiting the 9 years, but Jesus Christ, nobody should have to wait for 9 years. They talk about the Soviet Union, nobody has housing, well, guess
So
what?
I'm gonna put one on here that we haven't said yet, which is vacancy, rent, control. That would solve almost every, and what vacancy rent control means is, when you move out,
The landlord cannot raise the rent to market rate
Absolutely.
on a rent controlled apartment. That was made illegal by a California law back in the 90s, and we need to get rid of that law.
And so there's a couple of
You should not be able to get kicked out of your apartment or your house. Is that,
Absolutely.
does anybody disagree with
No.
making that a focus?
So housing as a right, as sort of the goal of
Right.
what good housing would look like, yeah.
And maybe the method, if we can pull it off. I mean, we probably won't pull it off soon, but if we drive, to me, if we drive with housing as a right, we'll win more. Because they'll be so scared, they'll give us some of this other stuff.
A basic.
I think also, even though it's not within the power of San Francisco, but federal, I mean, the cutbacks.
Like statement there,
Just in addition here, this last point, create housing assistance through the taxation of large businesses. I think we ought to take that farther and just to say that all private property needs to be taxed at some level to provide for the public good.
Tax the rich.
It's not just the rich.
Right.
There's, you know, everyone who is a property owner in San Francisco should be contributing to the general welfare. So that, you know, currently we have taxes, et cetera, that will go into various departments in our city budget. I'd love to see a section of my property tax bill that would be defined towards the public good of providing housing for every single homeless person.
yeah.
And so it's not just a matter of the mayor saying, okay, we're gonna this year because we're flush.
So how would you change the language?
It's through taxation of all private property to provide for the public good.